Welcome to TBM Backstage, a podcast about all things nerdy. I'm Lee.
I'm Jax. Wait, nerdy about what?
All things, anything and everything, from Bloody Mary Tudor to the naughty bits of the bard.
Oh, and maybe even a little peek behind the curtain of what it takes to run a sweat equity theater. Nerd alert!
Welcome back to TBM Backstage, a podcast about all things nerdy. We had so much fun during season 1 that we've decided to come back for another season. Season 2 officially starts on March 3rd, so look out for that on all your favorite podcast platforms and on YouTube. But today we have something super special for you and a little, shall we say, naughty. So pre-warning, we're going to be getting down and dirty with Shakespearean language. This will not be for the faint of heart, so let's get down to it.
All right, so Shakespeare is known as one of the best authors of all time. Yeah. His words inspire great armies to march to victory. Young lovers profess their love and give voice to the entire gamut of human emotion. Oh, yeah, baby. As a playwright in Elizabethan England, he wrote not only for the royals and wealthy in the posh seats, but also for the folks in the cheap seats, right? The ones in the back without the cushions. Yeah, we love those. Or the ones on the floor and the groundling area. We love those even more.
The ones that were standing. Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
One of his more endearing, don't know that that's the right word, abilities was to write the raunch. Shakespeare liked the flowery bits, the sonnets, the words of love and poetry and everything. But he really knew how to sling together the dirty words and phrases.
So many dick jokes in Shakespeare.
So many
dick jokes.
And we said dick already. Woo!
Any high schooler could probably point these out, and they did in school. I don't know about y'all, but in my classes, it was like, they said boob, or something like that. But today we're going to talk about some of our favorite smutty words and lines.
Oh my.
All right, so first off, how would you guys define raunchy, racy, dirty during Elizabethan times? I mean, yeah, there was probably brothels, there was probably all that sort of stuff. But, you know, when Lee and I were first talking about this episode or what to do, it kind of reminded me particularly of like Disney. Disney's very good. And a lot of Pixar, a lot of stuff like that are good at, telling children's stories, but they also sneak in stuff that the adults are like, So, I mean, was Shakespeare kind of like that? Was like raunch out in the open or during Elizabethan times, or was it more hush hush? What are y'all's thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, Shakespeare had to walk the line, didn't he? Because he's performing for not only the lower class, but the upper class as well. And we've already said, so in like Disney, where they make it, the jokes are only known by the people that are old enough to know.
Right.
Like the kids are not going to get the jokes, but the adults will, and then it comes off. The same way with Shakespeare, the common people are going to get, or they're going to get the jokes. And maybe the royalty will, maybe it won't. It doesn't matter, but it's done tastefully in that we're not coming out and saying exactly what it is, but we're giving it more of a metaphor.
Do you think that they were like more like during that time? Do you think that they were more if it was known that they were like, let's say, publishing smut or something like that? I mean, was that like a crime? Was that criminal? Do you think that there was maybe that hush hush, or I don't know?
I mean, keep in mind, prostitution was not. There weren't really laws. I mean, there were moralities,
right?
Play, but there weren't really laws against. Like, I mean, for example, a lord who was having multiple affairs on his spouse was extremely common.
Right.
So it's not like sex was a hidden thing. I mean, you didn't have television, you didn't have internet, you didn't have Snapchat. You basically had the somewhat attractive widow next door.
You had to go find it in the street. Yeah.
Right.
Well,
so
yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of. I mean, the church played a huge part in the times, and of course, the church, as we all know, the religious overview was, chastity, purity, virtue. But I mean, you're only in church how many hours a day, how many hours a week at those times, depending on, what kind of access you had. And of course you, anyway, a lot of
at the same time, so just prior to Elizabeth taking over, okay, Henry just went through what, 8 wives, right? I mean,
6.
he ostracized
any number of lovers as well, right?
And who knows, right? So there was this whole feeling. I mean, well, the monarchy's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Why are
he was
held to a higher
queuing
standard?
up. He was queuing up his next wife while his current wife was still around.
Yep,
That's true.
So,
yep,
that's true. And we also have to take into account that the men of the cloth and everything were also having sex on a regular basis.
Right.
I mean, you have one of the popes, and I do not know which one, but he was a Borgia, and he had children. He was supposed to he's supposed to be a man of the cloth.
he's
So, but he had many children.
some of the most virtuous men were part of the clergy, and some of the most impure, vile men were part of the clergy. Like some of the biggest corruption and the biggest virtue were part of the church. I mean, the biggest gamut by far.
So,
And they like their dirty just as much.
So why do you think then that Shakespeare, or do you think this was a way of describing smutty, raunchy sort of stuff, that he just didn't come out and say with his, well, I guess he kind of did. There was different meanings, his prick, right? Not dick.
So, I think it's because you have an audience who he's writing for the audience that's paying him, of course. So he's writing for he's giving the people who gave him money the show that they asked for, or a show in the thing that they would enjoy, featuring higher class people like they are, because they see themselves in the play, or people they know, etc. But he's also performing for the masses who can't read, don't understand the historical references, aren't educated in any way. And I say this with, quote unquote, love in my heart. Everyone gets a dick joke, right? I mean, it's, and also keep in mind the words, the text is one thing. So much of it is based on performance, because there's a huge difference between the line being, "Oh my, what a large dagger, my lord," performed as, "Oh, what a large dagger, my lord," and "Oh, what a large dagger, my lord." I mean, so there's a lot of it interpreted. So in a lot of ways, the level of raunch, if you will, is really more based on the performance than the actual words. But of course, the text is just rife with it. It's so fertile for the dick jokes. They're popping out of the ground, if you will. So
if you utilize the jokes that are already written into the script, and you capitalize on what you can do with it with staging, then it's a beautiful thing when it all comes together.
I find it interesting that Shakespeare was a man of being able to write the lofty, posh stuff that doesn't offend a queen, but at the same time could make someone in the groundling area guffaw because they got a particular joke or anything. And it's very interesting to me that today, what you really hear about mostly is the artiste of Shakespeare and everything, and they kind of they elevate him to a level of where he's just beyond that. And I think it's unfair, because a lot of his works, and I've seen a lot of Shakespeare plays across the years and everything, that where they tried to like play down the jokes and stuff like that, the raunchy bits, and it just didn't seem to work. But then I came to the Baron's Men, and we embrace the raunch. Sometimes we do it very subtly. Sometimes it's hit you in the face with a horse kind of jokes and stuff like that.
So to speak, right?
Like thinking of something else, but we won't say that.
I said horse. I said horse.
Yes. We all went there.
But it makes sense, because I've heard so many people come and see our show, sit there and go, "Did you guys do anything different with the language? Did you clean it up or anything?" And we're like, "No." They're like, "But I understood everything." So you can't. And the only thing that we do different here is that we actually play the jokes. We actually keep the jokes. and everything. And I think that
we learn the jokes, right? I mean, we do our research and we try to
Oh,
figure
yeah.
out, okay, I'm reading these words, what the heck does this mean? And you go research, you figure it out. It's like, oh my God, that's a joke about a venereal disease.
Oh.
Well, by all means,
Wow.
let's play
Yeah.
that, right?
I love and I think it's so true. That was like doing Loves. Woo, Loves was dirty. When
Yeah,
you
it was.
read like what some of the stuff meant, I was like, oh wow.
the
And-
girls say it too.
Yeah, and I mean it was well distributed.
You have to think about, okay,
So-
so Shakespeare in his time, what is he doing? He is, like you said, he's playing to the masses. You know, his success in life overall depends on the popularity of his shows, you know, the acceptance of his shows,
Yep.
you know, whether or not the queen likes it or not. I mean, either way, the queen can be swayed, you know, and if the overwhelming, you know, response is guffaw because of these jokes, right? Then he's a success. There's many other playwrights in that time that are way raunchier than Shakespeare. I mean, way raunchier. Like, wow.
Way raunchier.
Who wrote? I have a quick question for both of you guys. Who wrote Chase Made in Cheapside?
Oh God.
Was it Johnson?
Middleton.
I think it was
Middleton.
Thomas. I think it was Thomas Middleton.
Thomas Middleton. Yeah.
Because now, if I remember correctly, that was pretty.
Listen, in researching that play right there, you know, they had a whole system of affairs happening throughout London. Okay, and that's what
how the
he's
characters
writing
were
about.
connected. That's I mean, that was the interplay, right?
Exactly. And it was
In
not
her play.
uncommon for a man who was married to a woman because of her dowry, who, you know, maybe they had an attraction, maybe they didn't, but okay, suffice it to say that they you know, decided they weren't attracted anymore. She would take a lover or he would take a lover, and as long as they were still together, you know, well, maybe somebody else is satisfying my wife and I don't have to. And that's a certain kind of freedom.
Yeah.
If I walk in the door and she stops yelling at me, I don't care what it took. I'm happy that it's happening.
She's in a great mood most of the time. Great. I don't have
good.
to do anything. It's beautiful.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
and
the
I
whole
mean,
point of Chase.
I love it.
I think a comment, it's also a comment on the times and stuff like that, not necessarily Chase made, but, and this is probably a topic for another, for a different podcast and everything, but that it was common for men to publicly have affairs and mistresses and like a royal mistresses of record and stuff like that. I mean, there's several times where you have Louis, the 15th or the 16th, who Madame de Pompadour was his royal mistress, and she was best friends with his queen.
Oh yeah, the French took it to a whole different level.
Yeah, so it's very interesting, but
the
queen could not have the same.
Because she was expected to produce the royal heir, right? So they couldn't take a chance that she would give birth to another man's baby.
Yeah. But it obviously it happened. Obviously. Clearly it happened in there because they were all I'm coming to learn that Elizabethans were just a bunch of horny teenagers.
Well, they didn't have TV. I mean,
that's true.
Yeah, there's no iPhone to play your games on, so you know.
What else?
I mean, there's no porn for you to watch online.
Well,
right.
What was the TV? It was the peephole.
Yeah, the keyhole out the window, through the wall. Yes.
All right. So kind of reeling it back into the bard himself. We wanted to kind of ask you guys about double entendres. First, can you define double entendre for our viewers and listeners? What is it? What would you say a double entendre is?
Well, I mean, at its basic level, it's a word or phrase that when it's you say it one way, but it actually has a double meaning. So it can be, again, my, what a large dagger you have. My, what a large dagger you have. That's essentially a double entendre. So you can interpret it either way. Can be interpreted multiple ways.
Awesome. Now that we have that other way. So we are going to ask, Lee and I are both going to read some pretty, fun double entendres, famous double entendres. And you guys tell us what What do
I
you think?
told you this was a quiz.
God, I hope I know what these mean.
No, I'll read
If you don't know who said some of these and what they mean, I'm gonna take you out back and beat you, and not the fun kind.
Turn in your
I
theater
have Google
card.
pulled up now. It's fine.
Sounds
I'm
good.
going to tell you who said it, but you have to. Okay, so first one up. Oh, Aaron, because you have played this character.
Yep.
It's Much Ado, and it's Benedict. I will live.
Many times.
I will live in thy heart, die in thy lap, and be buried in his eyes. What does that mean?
Well, the most obvious answer to that question, and this is what I thought when we were getting to rehearsing that scene, is live in your heart, which is the love aspect of the relationship. Die in your lap, that is, the little death by orgasm,
right,
etc. I mean, that's the most obvious interpretation of that line.
Mm-hmm.
What was the end of it again? I stopped at lap. So
what's the rest of that?
Yeah.
Stopped at lap and buried in thy eyes.
Buried in the eyes. I think that's probably, and my first thought is that is the ideal image of how you are seen or perceived, right? That has to do with the perception of, romantic love versus, sexual love.
Shakespeare really liked the whole reference to the lady's lap.
Well, yeah,
because he also did it in Hamlet, where Hamlet asks Ophelia, "Shall I lie in your lap?" And it was totally meant to be like,
right. Well, I mean, there's a lot of ways you can play something like that. Like she's reclining and he is, laying and just resting his head in her lap, and they were, pitching woo at each other, or each other's confidant, etc. But there's obviously the very behind closed doors naughty version of.
Yes.
All right, Lee, you're up next.
Number 2, and I am not going to tell you what show this is from and who said it, because if you don't get this, I am going to be, your card's going to be yanked. By my life, this is my lady's hand. These be her very C's, her U's, and her T's, and thus makes her great penis.
That would be Malvolio reading the letter from Twelfth Night. Thank you very much. I had fond occasion to play that part and say those words many, many times.
Oh yes.
Just on a side note, on a non-raunchy side note, I can think of nothing more embarrassing than actually having words spelled out, like letters in a row in your lines, and then getting those letters in the wrong order as you're rehearsing and saying them wrong. And it's like, wait,
yes,
her great round U's. Wait, no, hold on. The P and this, which was the, anyway. So, the lot of interpretations there too. My thought of those were of course, the letters were the substitutions for the parts of the female anatomy, right? So, and you can take your pick, and they're largely interchangeable. Not saying the pieces of the anatomy are interchangeable, but I mean, the C can be many things. Great.
Laura, why are you not commenting on any of these?
Because I'm busy laughing. That's great. Fantastic. That's awesome.
All right.
She's Googling and her internet's too slow. So
I know.
It's possible. That is possible.
Well,
we can almost see it in your glasses, just FYI.
That's right.
You could literally pick any one of Shakespeare's plays and everything. But when Jackie, I just realized when we were looking at this, and I was like, oh, wow. Okay, we really like this play. Because there's several from 12th Night.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and I'm trying to think
all over the place. All over the place.
If I remember correctly, because I was just, when I saw this one too, I mean, it's definitely I'm Googling. It was definitely like
a dirtier one and a more referenced one, because it's more kind of blatant.
There's so many interpretations of 12th Night. I mean, you can take it take it sexually, you can take it straight, you can take it, in many different ways.
Especially with Malvolio, which is kind of the interpretation we had of that. Yeah. Malvolio was not a sexually aware creature. I mean, he was very repressed and he was very proper. And for him to say words like that, I mean, that is essentially like, the little boy going, I'm going to go look at a Playboy. I don't know what I'm looking at it for, but I know this is dirty, and I'm sneaking at something, right? So, so that's kind of how we interpreted it. But I mean, Malvolio could just be a great lech too. So again, performance is such a part of it.
Well, he's a person that is trying to rise above his station. Also, that's another thing that I think, sexual language and sex itself, it transcends classes. You see that
the whole stable boy thing,
Shakespeare as well, not just Shakespeare, but all of them. Yeah, man. You can't beat a good stable boy, but I mean that's a thing that was very prevalent. I mean, you can, but he may not appreciate it anyway.
Or he would, maybe.
It needs to be
or maybe he likes it. I don't know. Anyway,
that needs to be a story title. Ye old stable boy.
Ye old stable boy.
I think Chaucer wrote that.
I'm pretty sure he did. Anyway,
because so basically he's saying vagina.
Well, yes, in the parts of the vagina specifically.
Yes.
All right, and the next
There's
one.
so much interpretation to that whole phrase.
So
it's
many.
Like you can go in 15 different directions. Like,
so what do they call it when it's not a double entendre? It's like a double entendre. There's like 4 different meanings.
There's triple or quadruple entendre.
I'm sure several master's theses were written just on that.
That's
letter
probably
alone.
true.
Yep,
I'm
absolutely.
sure they're listening now going, oh God.
True.
All right. So this next one, okay, I won't tell. Well, she kind of already told you, but anyways, let's see here. I didn't do this one. I think Lee chose this one. And okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And thou let part so, Sir Andrew, would thou mightst now. Let's see if I can read it right. And thou let part so, Sir Andrew, would thou midst never draw sword again. What? I don't even know what that means. That was some horrible butchery. I've never read that
Oh,
language.
I guess this is one that needs a little bit of context.
Yeah, I think it's
this was at the very beginning of the play and everything.
Is that Andrew Aguecheek, right, in 12th Night still?
Well, it's Toby Belch talking
about Andrew, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he's Aguecheek had just been talking about drinking too much and not being able to
never draw a sword again. That
to
impotence was my
get it
first
up.
thought.
I mean, that's basically what they were talking about.
It's like the porter in Macbeth when he talks about when you drink too much, you basically get whiskey dick.
Whiskey dick.
Yes.
I mean, I've heard such things can happen. In fiction, literature.
Good answer. Good answer.
This next one has a very special place in my heart because in the same production that Aaron got to play Malvolio, I got to play Mariah, who was one of his tormentors, his chief tormentor, to be honest.
Mariah, the real villain of 12th Night, in my opinion.
I know, and that's how I played her, but everybody was like, you gave her personality and made her
the mastermind.
She was such an evil villain.
It was great.
So evil.
But at the very beginning, and this is poor Aguecheek, he was always such the butt of jokes for this play, except for when Malvolio was. But Mariah says, I pray you, bring your hand to the buttery bar and let it drink. Now, when I started with Baron's Men, this was like my 3rd production with TBM. And I really was not up on the hip language of Shakespeare at the time, like what the in jokes were. So it was actually Aaron who told me what this meant. And I was like, oh my goodness, I can say a dirty joke.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's been a lot of years. I can't remember the analogy that I used, but essentially it's, hands can't drink, right? So you're running your hand along and then all of a sudden your hand arrives at a destination and it may partake of where it has ended up.
I don't know.
Right? So it could be cleavage, it could be thigh, it could be any number of things. So
we were blatant about it. We played it as a boob joke.
Of course.
Well, and I held this poor guy's hand to my boob and he was like really fighting to get away because I made him uncomfortable.
See, I totally took it different.
So did I.
Right. No,
what did you take it as?
Really? That's up the
boobs
thigh, I would
butter,
assume.
Do they? Your boobs don't make butter. Silky like butter.
Well,
your boobs don't do that.
The reason we went with boobs, it was because of the whole we went with boobs because of the whole milk butter angle.
Because
Oh.
yes, the milk and the butter.
Right.
Yes.
And I was not going to put his hands there.
Right.
Of course not, because that's
But also
inappropriate.
that's the performance angle, because in the costume you get to
Yeah.
see a lot of cleavage, right? You
Right,
don't
right.
get to see any thigh. So obviously
it works
staging
way
wise.
better
Right.
upstairs than it does downstairs. So
Next one.
next, okay.
Next. So I'm not going to tell you the play. We'll see. All right. I'll be a park, and thou shalt be my deer. Feed where thou wilt, on mountain or in dale. Graze on my lips, and if those hills be dry, stray lower where the pleasant fountains lie. I mean, that's pretty. Laura, you say what it is. Shh, Karen, shh. Laura.
Is this Loves? This is Loves, right?
No.
I don't know what it's from. You didn't tell me this was going to be a quiz.
Surprise!
But
No surprise.
regardless, what does it mean? So Jackie, can you
what
say
is
it
it?
again?
Yeah. Okay. So,
Well, I know what it means, but yeah.
okay. Well, go ahead and say what it means. I mean, it's from
Well, I
Venus
mean-
and Adonis. It's Venus.
If it doesn't work up top, then we go further. We go further
Right.
south. Yes.
Because yeah, graze on my lips, and if those hills be dry, stray lower where the where the pleasant fountains lie.
Where the butter is.
You're right.
Yes, with the
And
butter.
that is all about foreplay, right? So
Yeah.
get the juices. If this spot ain't working, try another
Yeah.
spot, right? So
Keep moving south, and you'll be fine.
Can we just do a montage? Let's have the Baronsmen do a special montage of just dirty double entendres, okay? And like vignettes of double dirty
I,
entendres.
That's
I-
next year's Valentine's fundraiser.
I suggested that we should do a T-shirt of Shakespeare double entendre quotes.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Fundraiser.
Okay.
Done.
I've suggested that several times actually, but quietly, because not everyone is a fan of such things, of course.
So, I mean, to kind of go back to what Aaron was saying earlier with it's all about performance in some of the things. Because for Bits of the Bard, we did, for instance, we did a scene from Merry Wives of Windsor, where it really, the words are not dirty. I mean, it's pretty much Mistress Quickly giving the 411 to Falstaff on the two women that he flirts with, and letting them know, oh, they'll meet you here and everything, and this is what you have to do. But the way we played it originally, when we did it back in like 2000, and then in 2019,
2005, I think.
I think it was 2005. But both times we played it for the sexy bits and so something like that. So I know it was really hard, at least for me, to find, like, because Quickly doesn't have a whole lot of words in there that you can take as dirty, and trying to
It's all
find
how
those
you say them.
moments and everything, and making the double entendre, making the words be a double entendre, even though it was just saying, go to the market and she'll meet you by the fountain kind of thing.
Well, I mean, that's kind of when you take the cork out of the bottle, if you will. If you have a text, or you have a play, or you have characters where you have a dick joke here and a dick joke there, potentially there's a dick joke everywhere, right? So even if there isn't a dick joke, you can make one and it doesn't seem weird at all, right?
No.
So
Old Will Shakespeare had a
Right.
farm.
I mean,
Yes,
especially with
you.
Falstaff,
You get the same thing, Laura.
Everywhere.
Laura's my
Dick-
twin.
with a dick joke here and a dick joke there. Here's-
Everywhere.
Dick joke, dick joke
Is it
everywhere.
bad that now I'm seeing little penises with like woolly caps, like sheep and everything like that, just kind of hopping
Is
around?
that your screen? Is that your screensaver? Or
No.
well, I'm asking for a friend, right?
Oh Lordy.
Moving on. So
Next question.
this is a bonus round one. This is when I was doing research. I don't know. So I was like, anyways, we'll see what happens. But I'm gonna quote and read a little bit here, though. Okay, Aristotle's masterpiece, also known as the Works of Aristotle, the famous philosopher, is a sex manual and a midwife. I can't say it. Midwifery.
Wifery.
Wifery.
There you
The book that was popular in England from
Midwifery is something totally different. I'm sorry, but
To be continued in another podcast coming
different
soon.
podcast. Sorry.
Don't make me do it. Okay. I'm not going to try it again. I'm just going to move it on. Book that was popular in England from the early modern period through to the 19th century. It was first published in 1684, so a little beyond our charter, and written by an unknown author who was falsely claimed to be Aristotle. So I wanted to do, here's a quote from that book, and I want you to tell me what you think this is. When the husband cometh into his wife's chamber, he must entertain her with all kinds of dalliance, wanton behavior, and allurements to, is it venery? Lee?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Venery. But if he perceive her to be slow and more cold, he must cherish, embrace, and tickle her, intermixing more wanton kisses with wanton words and speeches, handling her secret parts and dugs, that she may take fire and be inflamed to venery. What are dugs?
So obvious. Laura, go ahead. Dude, if you come home, if your wife's in the mood, you're having a good time. And if she's not in the mood, you got to get her in the mood. Right. And you got to do all that nonsense that women like to get in the mood, blah, blah words. Oh, honey, how was your day? I'm listening. I care about your problems, yada, yada, yada. Right. So
show me your dugs.
Right.
I mean, what does dugs mean? I don't
dugs. I don't know.
I'm such a bad host. I researched it and I don't know where I put what it was.
I think it's a boob joke.
It's gotta be, right?
What's the context? What's the phrasing of the...
Okay, so intermixing more wanton kisses and wanton words and speeches, handling her secret parts and dugs, that she may take fire and be inflamed to venery.
That's tune in Tokyo and while you're inflaming her. Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Dugs. So I looked it up on Google, by the way.
Yes. Okay.
Dugs is the udder, tit, or nipple of a female animal. There you go.
Wow.
That is the Google.
So then that implies the secret parts are the
other thing.
Yes.
You got two hands at work.
And the up there.
Right.
You only got one secret part. Well, maybe no. You only got one secret part.
That's for a different time.
Coming soon to a podcast near you.
Different podcast.
It is interesting to listen to the language. I mean, so this is written in 1684 and was still used through to the 19th century. And I love the way this sounds, because when I read this, I might need to get this book. I don't know. I really want to read it, because it's pretty interesting. Like, into his wife's chamber, he must entertain her with all kinds of dalliance, wanton behavior, and allurements to venery. What is venery again? Google it.
Sex.
Venery.
Lasciviousness.
Okay. But
basically.
I love it. But if he perceive her to be slow and more cold, he must cherish, embrace, and tickle her. Now, tickle is probably not meaning tickle. Or maybe
I kind of took reach in, give her a hug, give her a little tickle, try to make her laugh, try to make her playful, etc. I mean,
oh, is that where slapping a tickle comes from?
Oh my God.
Okay. That probably does.
Maybe so.
Not the tickle, sorry. But, yeah.
Well, we kind of talked a little bit about Chase Made in Cheapside, which hopefully we'll read someday. I mean, and what I did read,
it's fun.
Good.
It's a fun
play. It's a lot of fun. It is.
Read? I want to do. I'm ready to play a slut.
Play? Okay.
Wait. Oh.
Okay, we're writing that down for the casting couch. I mean,
damn, I missed a casting couch.
Damn it! No.
What the hell?
What would you say? What is y'all's favorite? What's your favorite? Well, no. I mean, that's probably. Wait, when was the Kama Sutra written?
It was. It's
ancient.
Thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think, this is a dumb question, but I'm sure there was Kama Sutra little, books that were printed, they were hidden away.
What were they doing, Jackie?
I know, this was for the viewers. Hidden away.
Was there period erotica? I have no doubt there was period erotica.
Of course,
clearly, God. Yes.
It would be interesting to find that.
It would be. I mean, that's why this book is sex manual.
Well, I
I'm very
mean,
curious.
in the days before the printing press, I mean, you had to lovingly handcraft it, if you will. So, I mean,
or pass it down by word of mouth. Yeah.
well done. Well done. By the way. Well done.
Do y'all have a favorite raunchy line of your own?
Say that again.
Do you have a favorite raunchy line of your own that you?
What's your favorite smutty Shakespeare bit?
When you guys were talking about this podcast, the first thing that came into mind was, and it's not really a raunchy line, but it's when the Baron's Men did, I think, Laura, this might have been one of your first shows with us, the London Merchant, which is also known as the Night of the Burning Pestle.
Yes.
And we didn't understand Pestle, Pestle. And of course, those of us, kind of like Lee was saying earlier, before we really kind of got in the swing of how this works or whatever, we were doing a lot of research. Oh, the Night of the Burning Pestle. Yeah, a burning pestle.
Yeah.
Like a mortar and pestle, of course, is what you used to grind. You know, the night of the burning pestle is about a penis that is dripping with fluid from the venereal disease.
Yes.
So the night of the burning pestle is about a lecherous old dude who's got so much VD going on that he's got pus dripping out of his dick. Is how that works.
I no longer want to do this play.
Since you asked, that's the first thing I thought of when you said what's your favorite raunchy, because that was so early in my career with the Baron's Men, and I've never forgotten it. It's like, oh, that is just so
your brain.
Beautiful. Horrible, but beautiful. And Laura, you remember the pestle that you made? I think you made it, right?
No, I didn't make it. Pam made it.
Pam made it. And in fact, I think it's in my garage. Now that I say that,
I found it.
I think it might be
artifacts.
So it's actually like a cudgel. You know, it's got a cone and a bow on top, and it's got ribbons
like
out of the top.
The Olympic torch.
Yes, shaped like the Olympic torch.
Well, I've seen that.
Yep, yes. That was the burning pestle.
Yeah. And on stage they beat people with it. I mean,
yep.
The person that was playing,
like it was a cudgel. They used it as a club, etc.
Absolutely.
So, now, of course, the play obviously had nothing to do with a night, but the imagery. That's why it had two names: the London Merchant, aka the Night of the Burning Pestle. Not Shakespeare, but
yeah.
Nice.
I love that.
What about you, Laura?
Oh God, I would have to research it.
Or like a context. What if a moment in a play or something that you were like, whoa?
I mean, one of my favorite things is actually Malvolio, when he is reading the letter that he thinks is from Olivia.
But it wasn't. It was from Mariah.
I know, and it's great because he's so full of himself at this time.
He thinks he's getting a love letter. You know?
Yes, and it's totally a trick, and it's
and his response, Malvolio's response to that love letter that he got.
Yes.
If you would like to see the wondrous thing that our lovely Erin Niemuth did. Go over to our website to our past shows and look up 12th Night. There's a video there. And there is a video there that has it on there, and it is wondrous.
So in my defense, it was a lot of years ago.
Yes.
And I had two devils on my shoulder off stage that night who convinced me to do nothing but evil.
The infamous. Yes.
So I have
that was one of my favorite parts of that entire show.
Erin, and you certainly had that night. You had it thrust upon you.
2009.
Every night it got bigger and better.
Upon other people. So
that's awesome.
Great.
I didn't know, and just as a teaser, I did not know what the phrase "drop it like it's hot" meant.
Yeah, Bridget and I had to be backstage.
So there you go.
Two girls in full Elizabethan wearing hoop skirts had to show him how to drop it like it's hot.
And I'm like, no, you're kidding, right? And then I can't remember which of you did it first, but one of you did it. I'm like, what? You're kidding. Then the other did it, and it's like, oh no, clearly we all know this. I'm like, oh, all right.
We both know how to do that. Yeah.
Clearly that's the thing.
Oh, no, but you embraced it, baby.
Yeah, that's probably by far my favorite scene on.
We may have to add a link to the
Yes,
podcast.
yes, I will put a link to the video in the
Yeah.
YouTube information.
Yes.
Comment.
I have such
Oh,
my
mixed
goodness.
feelings about this living in infamy and this never being seen again.
I remember just every single night it got bigger and bigger and more
so to speak.
elaborate.
No pun
And
intended.
then
Well,
by the time we got to the last weekend, the entire cast who was not coming on immediately following it
Yes,
was
was out
standing
front
in.
Yeah.
watching that.
I looked one night. We looked out and I saw
Yep.
that is the entire. There's nobody backstage. That is the stage manager.
Yeah,
that is the
absolutely.
costumer. That is every single cast member out there watching
All of us.
from the ground.
And
Yep.
poor Bridget, she was standing here putting her head in my shoulder, looking like she's supposed to be, she's like shaking like she's supposed to be offended by what he's doing. But the entire time she's going, I'm going to
Oh,
kill him.
God.
I'm going to kill him.
It was such a great moment, and to know like what happened, in the backstage prior to that, and what it turned out to be, and then again how the audience reacted to it. Like, I mean, it was perfection, honestly.
It really was. It was a great
had
moment.
no idea that was coming, and it
I didn't either.
absolutely. And neither did you, yeah.
No.
And it absolutely played the words beautifully to what
It
the
did.
situation was. Honestly,
Awesome.
It was
Yeah.
great.
good job.
Jackie, what's your favorite?
I don't know.
Always asking the questions, but now you in the spot.
That's because that's for another podcast. No, I don't know. I mean, I don't really have one, honestly.
There's so many to choose from. Really.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
anything can be a raunchy line too. So it's
yeah.
Exactly. We we pride ourselves on finding the raunch in all of our.
no brow
Yeah,
is
we
too
do.
low. Yep.
Lee, what's yours?
It would probably have to be Hamlet, and the reason why is I love the fact that Hamlet is well known for its tragedy and sadness and everything of all of the characters. I mean, everybody dies pretty much at the end. But in the middle of all of this, you have Hamlet, who's supposed to be the most emo person on the planet and everything, talking dirty to a girl that he has professed that he has loved his entire life. And he's talking just like, and it's not just I'd like to tap that or anything, but it's like let's go to bed so I can get between your legs and do this kind of thing. So I just like that weird dichotomy of the tragedy and then the raunch.
Yeah. Very cool.
I mean, there's pick a plate. There's raunch in everything.
Well,
Also, like
in
Romeo and
all
Juliet.
of Shakespeare for sure.
Yeah.
To varying levels. So
Oh yeah. Well, I think we're probably reaching the end of this one. So
we're at the climax, if you will.
yes, we are at the climax. Thank you,
heading
Aaron and
towards the
Laura,
afterglow. Yeah.
for being such good sports for us. And we will
pleasure.
see you on March 3rd for the season opener of the podcast. So see you
Happy
there.
Valentine's Day, y'all.
Happy
Happy
Valentine's.
Valentine's Day.